Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RAMP, Real Access Motivates Progress, live Wednesday night podcast. This is our last podcast for 2021, and we are ending on a high note tonight because we have a great show for you moving forward tonight. So I'm going to let my guests introduce themselves. So welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining our show tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
They are all my fellow Burravillians. They all live in the town of Burraville, and they all have a different job that all works together, and we all work for accessibility. So, Michael, I'm going to start with you. If you could introduce yourself, tell us where you work, and tell us a little bit about you.
Sure, thanks. So, first of all, Tina, thanks for having me. Mike Solito is my name. I am the superintendent of schools here in Burraville. This is my fourth year in that role. One small correction, I do not live in the town. Unfortunately, I live in North Providence, about a 25-minute drive to bucolic Burraville. So perfect distance away. It gives me a little time to decompress after a long day. But really happy to be here and certainly happy to be part of the Burraville community.
Oh, we're so glad to have you. Christopher, why don't you go next?
All right, so my name's Chris Pilling. I am the construction management teacher at Burraville High School. This is my first year at the school, although I've been teaching for 12 years. So this is a new role at the school. It's great to be there. It's awesome being the CTE program, between the funding, the kids, the room that I have. It's fantastic for everything that's going on, and especially living in town and connecting with all the different community members and trying to get into different pieces, working with Holly with the Assembly Theater, working with the town on the town council, doing signs for fields. It's just a great place to be. And especially living in a town, it's very connected. So it's awesome to be here.
Oh, great. Just tell us a little bit about what the CTE program is for those who may not understand what that stands for.
So CTE is Career and Technical Education. It is a pathway that students choose to be in. Right now, we service about 100 students for the construction pathway. So there are 3 different levels, just generically called construction 1, 2, and 3 for the different years that they're in it. It's year-long courses. And each year they go through what's called a Home Builders Institute. And that is a nationally recognized certification process that gives them a pre-apprenticeship. And they also do OSHA 10. They're going to be first aid and CPR certified by the end of it. So that way they can jump right onto a job site and begin doing the work. And we're going to be the community more. And, COVID's obviously a kind of stopping place that, we can't get as many places as we want to. But in the future, we're going to be getting out into the community more and more, letting the kids appreciate what they do and see what they do around the town and around the state. So.
Oh, that's great. That's a great program. And Holly, why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do?
Sure. Thank you for having me. My name is Holly Dumaine-Picard, and I'm the executive chair of the Patrons of the Assembly Theater and the theatrical producer for the Assembly Theater. Our group brings theater and other cultural events and fun activities to the town of Burraville, as well as the students in the town.
And what did you just have that we just finished up a couple of weeks ago?
We finished up a wonderful run of Little Women, a Broadway musical, and we were able to perform at Burraville High School, which was amazing.
That was awesome. And 2 of the major characters from that role just happened to be in wheelchairs. And Christopher's CTE program built the sets for that program. And Michael helped make sure that because the Burraville Theater is going ADA compliant, that they had a place to perform at the Burraville High School. So now you see how all 3 of these people are very connected, making accessibility and inclusion throughout the town of Burraville very important. Michael, I'm going to start with you with a few questions. How important is it that our schools in Burraville here or anywhere are fully accessible, and how do you make sure that that is the case?
Well, I think it's a great question, Tina. I think that accessibility for all kids, whether it's a physical disability or students that may be dealing with emotional or learning disorders, or any kind of stumbling block that they're encountering. We have a responsibility as a school community to make sure that we're serving those kids and meeting their needs. Sometimes that's a physical disability, sometimes it's intellectual disability, or anything along those lines. So, being public schools, we're charged with meeting the needs of all kids all the time, and that's something that we on a daily basis are constantly striving to do. So we have a number of things that we do at all levels, at all schools, to keep that in mind. Yearly reviews of both physical structures in the building, as far as accessibility and things like that, making sure that we're up to code for events and venues like the auditorium and the gymnasiums. And just last week we had to do a check of all our bleachers in the gymnasiums at the high school and the middle school, and our outdoor bleachers as well for fall sports. So there's a continuum of processes that are in place to make sure that accessibility is always there, and it's something that's in the forefront of our minds. And it goes above and beyond just being ADA compliant. It's more servicing the kids and the myriad of needs that they come with every day. And lots of people involved in those conversations and in those discussions, and it's something that we really try to do a good job with, and try evolving as the needs of the kids evolve from year to year, and really from day to day in some cases.
What a lot of people don't realize is it may not only be the kids that you need to be accessible for, but they say that a student can only strive if their parents are available. I mean, both of my kids are walking, regular kids. I'm the one who's in the wheelchair. So if I want to participate in their sporting events, their theater or whatever, the school has to be fully accessible to allow the parents or the supportive staff in as well. And let me tell you, your theater is fully accessible, because I got to get on the stage, which I was very, very excited about, because as you can tell, I'm very shy, but I liked getting up on the stage in my wheelchair. It's amazing. So thank you for everything that you do. Holly, tell us a little bit about the theater going ADA compliant and how all that came about.
So for a few years, I've been asking that question. And then when we did auditions for Little Women, I happened to have two wonderful actors audition that happened to be using a wheelchair. So I said, we got to get this done. And the Board of Administration was completely on board. Unfortunately, things take a lot of time, especially with the state that we're in right now. So that's why I reached out to Mr. Saflito to say, hey, can we use the school? And that's how it started. And my cast was thrilled. We did practice at the Legion Hall, which is accessible, but there's nothing like being on stage. And they absolutely love to be on stage, as you could tell if you came to the show.
And if you missed the show, you missed a great show, because it was phenomenal. Chris, what was it like building the sets when Holly came to you about building the accessible sets for the show and everything? How did that all work, and how excited or not excited were the kids to do that?
So, I really don't remember where it sparked. I don't know if it was a Facebook conversation or a Board of Administration meeting or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But our paths just kind of crossed, and she said, hey, you're the construction teacher. Can you build stuff? And I said, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to be able to do stuff with the community, So, and then I started talking to the kids about the project, and their first thing was like, wait, set design for a theater play? Like, well, we're a construction class. And I said, yeah, but think about the guys in Mythbusters, Adam Savage and all those guys, that they do all of these things all the time, and they were Hollywood set designers, which a lot of people don't know. They just know them for blowing stuff up, So I started talking about all of that stuff, and the kids were like, wait, like we could do that, where we're building sets designed for Hollywood? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of eye-opening for the students, because they think of construction. It's like, all right, we're going to build a house, which isn't always the case. It could be picnic tables like we were talking about earlier, or set design or houses, or it could be some finish work in a kitchen, or, you know, you name it, and it's there. So the kids, once they got the materials, they were like, all right, well, when does this have to be done by? I'm like, all right, it's Monday. We have to have this in the assembly, not the assembly, in the auditorium by Wednesday afternoon, because they have to practice with the stuff. And they were like, what? We have 2 really days of class to get this done? I said, yeah. So I had all my levels of classes really working on it. So they all, you know, joined in. And by the end, they were like, okay, I can see, you know, why we're doing this. I understand, because it was the same concept as building a wall in a house, you know, 16-inch on center studs, and everything was structurally sound, putting casters on it so that way you could roll it around, and, you know, putting the roof pitch on the top to make it look like an attic. And by the end, the kids, because at the beginning we talked about the, like, what it was going to look like. And I said, oh, it's going to look like an attic. And they were like, I don't understand. But at the end, they were like, oh, okay, I can see why you said we need to do it this way. So they were excited that their work was actually being used for something that was being seen by a ton of people. The kids couldn't be more excited about it. And I'm looking forward to future projects.
What a great program
So
that is.
The
For
kids
children
get to
who may
see
not
the
be on.
pictures
What was that?
by any
So what was that?
chance,
Sorry.
Chris? Did the kids get to see some of the pictures that were taken by our
Oh, yeah.
professional
Yeah, they were
photographer?
like, wow,
Awesome.
those set pieces look way different than what they look like in the classroom. So they were all excited about it.
That's awesome. But that's such a great class for kids who may not be on the path to college and can come out of high school with an actual trade and with actual skills. Michael, were you part of having this program brought to Burrillville High School? And how important is a program like this out in a rural town like Burrillville?
Well, I think it's I think CTE is a field that's really evolving across most high schools, you know, across the nation, really. So right now at Burrillville High School, our construction management pathway is one of 7 that are approved by the Department of Education. So we have a law and public safety pathway. We have an engineering and robotics pathway. We have a biomedical pathway. We have environmental science. We have our construction management and graphic arts. I think that's in education. So all those 7 pathways are fully approved by the Department of Education, which means students from any district in Rhode Island can come to Burrillville if they apply and are accepted into those programs. So some of those programs are for kids that are maybe college bound after high school. And some of those programs are for kids who are more interested in, you know, a vocation, going into either a vocational or trade school, or right into a career, you know, being career ready. And there's a kind of a switch, I would say, over the last maybe 15 years or so in education, where in previous years, some of those vocational programs were looked at as a different track and not for kids going to college. And now the career and technical education pathway programs have put all of that together. So there are kids in our construction management program and all of our programs who may be looking for a career after high school, immediately after high school, but there's also kids who could be looking to go to a 2-year college or a 4-year college or vocational school. So it's really for all types of kids, not trying to get away from the idea of certain kids are destined for college and certain kids are destined not for college. It's just really providing them with the skills and the opportunities to make a decision that's good for them and that's right for them when they're ready to make that decision after high school. So it's kind of an exciting time in education because it's something that's new and different. If you remember, you know, when I was a kid years ago, you had vocational programs which were more hands-on, but they were for kids who really had zero interest in going to college or furthering their education after high school. Now that's kind of transformed into a more inclusive environment for kids. So certainly there are kids who go right into a career, and there are other kids who might be looking for some higher education opportunities. One of the really important aspects of that is a requirement to complete 80 hours of what's called work-based learning. So everyone in every student who's part of one of those 7 programs, before they graduate, has to complete 80 hours of work-based learning. It's either an in-class project or something out in the community, and then that they're kind of giving credit for those projects when they graduate. And you know, when you look at a student's transcript that they came through the construction management pathway or the engineering pathway, that gives us some credibility for an employer after high school or for a college, if that's something going to apply to. So it's really a changing field. One of the things I wanted to be sure to mention is that Holly and I, over the last few years, have had lots of conversations about an additional pathway for performing arts. With the Assembly Theater, such a wonderful resource in town, it would be a natural connection to try to build, an additional pathways for some of our kids who are looking for an avenue to perform either on stage or through music or through acting. So I think that's something that we're in discussions with now, and hopefully something we can build out in the coming years.
Oh, that's great, because I think it's just such a great idea, because even if you're in the construction pathway, you can go to school if you want to start your own construction building. So you have to go to business management to make sure that you can take care of all of the billing and all of the other stuff.
Right.
But during the pandemic, it was the construction workers who kept going. It was the plumbers who kept going. It was the electricians who kept going. You know what I mean? Because everybody was home and found out all the stuff at home that wasn't working that they needed to have repaired. So during all of this time, you couldn't get somebody to come out to your home because they were all booked up because everybody wanted them. So what a great idea. Holly, tell us a little bit about the theatrical pathway that you'd like to see come up in Barville.
So we do already have a great music program in Burrillville. So we talked that we would expand that to include performing arts, which would be theater, dance, music, and then all of the backstage tech that goes with it, which honestly is the most exciting part for me, because then all different types of students can get involved. A lot of people don't know how much goes into a production. It's not just what you see on stage. It's everything happening in the background. And that's what I want to share with students, so they can see everything that goes into a production, even if they're not the one that says, oh, I want to perform. They can still be a part of that pathway, which does offer opportunities for employment, such as Chris's students learn that they can build sets. We have some really cool shows that require some fun technical stuff to be built. So I'm excited to have his class learn how to do that kind of thing and give them some challenges. So if I come up to them and say, hey, we might be doing Wizard of Oz. I want the wizard's mouth to talk. And I want a little bit of sparks in the eyes. Can you guys make that happen safely? So I want to be able to give those challenges as well. It's not just building a wall for us. There's a lot of really fun stuff. And that can also go into the other pathways too. So maybe if there's some business needs, those students can help me figure out, what's the best thing to do. Graphic design. I have a show coming up. I need a poster to design. Students can do that. So my overall thought is, yes, it's a fine arts pathway for Burrillville students that are interested in that sort of thing, but it also allows every other pathway to get creative. And that's really the overall goal. Not many towns that I know of have an assembly theater or anything close. So technically, those students in that pathway could get some live work experience in the theater while they're actually participating in that pathway, seeing that the proximity to the theater and the school is in walking distance. So we have that awesome blessing of having this theater to be a tool for learning as well as enjoyment and entertainment.
That's awesome. And I love the fact that all of this can be fully accessible to students of all abilities. Because like you said, whether they're front and center on stage, like you saw Marin and, all of them on stage, you could also do a lot of the backdrop, the graphic arts, the sound, the technical work, the, preparing them, making sure that the stage is in the right spot. Christopher, do you have anybody of different abilities as part of your program, or are you available to have that if you did have a student come up wanting to do that?
So all the rooms and all the entire school are able to get anybody accessible in there. So I don't currently have anybody that fits that bill, but it's more than welcome, at both the entrance door, the exit doors. I know I've been in some schools where, one or the other doesn't work, or the last school I was in, I was the only classroom that had stairs going down into it. And I was like, I don't know how, if I ever have a student in a wheelchair, this is going to work. I've never had to do it teaching construction. But I'm sure as we move, there's going to be a wider variety of people that are going to want to get into hands-on trades as it's kind of blowing up right now, right? Because right now there are more people retiring from the trades than people entering, which presents a huge problem. As you have to change something out on a sink, and it's going to take weeks for them to get there, and then they're going to be able to charge you an arm and a leg, which it's good for no one. But I think anybody is capable of doing any of the work. So that's more than welcomed.
Yeah, I think that's great that you're open to that opportunity, because like you said, kids with autism are great with numbers, and they're so particular in what they do. So they would be great in a carpentry field or an engineering field, or like you said, putting on a play or the theatrical background part, because they're so particular of how they do different things that, it's something that we could promote. Burrville is really leading the way in this, because the entire school is fully accessible, where anything a student wanted to do out here in the town of Burrville, they can access. And I give you guys a huge round of applause to that, because, now I think we need to promote it to those kind of students. Michael, have you put it out there to the teachers or the students that students of all abilities could try these programs without actual, is there a day that you have where, the students can see the different things and see if they could try it to see if it's something that they would like?
Yeah, we do promote the programs. It's something that's a work in progress, I would say. We were at the level prior to the pandemic where we were pushing out to neighboring communities and promoting our programs to kids of all abilities in all surrounding communities, because our 7 programs, pathway programs, are all approved by the Department of Education. You don't have to be a Burrville resident to attend. You could, at no cost to the parent, you could apply and send a student from, Woonsocket or Gloucester or Foster or Situate or Johnston, North Smithfield. Any of those local communities can send a student. And we began the process of really promoting our programs, and that's right when the pandemic hit. One of the things we're very cognizant of is not just promoting the programs to outside students in outside districts, but also students in our own district. So building that K-12 articulation and getting our younger kids excited about what's going on at the high school, and then getting the middle school age kids informed, first of all, and then excited about what's happening at the high school. That's part of our plan as well. We do have days at the high school where we talk about our programs and have open houses for parents and for kids. And now we're bringing that down to the middle school as well. What I found when I first came to Burrville in July of 2018, we had a number of students who were leaving the district and going to similar programs in other schools, other school districts. And I started meeting with the parents of those kids and trying to find out why they were leaving. And one of the reasons that kept popping up was that these kids and their parents of 8th graders that were going into the grade 9 had no idea that we offered the programs that we had at the high school at the time. So they may have been applying to a neighboring town that had an engineering program, not knowing that we had an engineering program, right in their backyard. So I think we've addressed that problem over the last couple of years and are doing better, but certainly some more work to do in that, aspect of things. And then the next step would be to push it out to the larger community as a whole and neighboring towns, and we could draw some students in from other districts, because it's great to expand diversity, not just within the town, but get a more diverse group of kids helps everybody.
Oh, absolutely. Would it be something that you could dabble in it in the younger grades? You know what I mean? Like elementary or middle school, where you could, have a week or so where they work on different projects, so they could kind of, get a more lengthy feel, or like an after school program where they could, get involved at a younger age, might be able to help promote, the arts, the construction, the anything, you know what I mean? If they were brought into it, the younger that they're brought in or seen to that, the better that they could do. Would that be something that's possible?
Yes, yeah, it's a great point. So we actually run some what we call gateway programs at the middle school, and that's really for engineering and for engineering and robotics are the two big areas that the gateway programs for. I think there's a bioscience one as well. And then something we've done that's been really exciting over the last couple of years is a robotics club at the elementary levels. So prior to the pandemic, we ran it after school during the school day, and we were limited with the number of students that we could accept, and they all filled up. Every section of that after school program, there was a $25 cost for parents, and it was a couple of times a week, I think for about 6 weeks. And there was a waiting list to get in those programs, and we ran it at all three elementary schools, and then did a kind of a culminating event at the high school in the auditorium where there was a contest between, the kids would design these robots, and then they would have a contest, and it was kind of like Battle Bots, if you're familiar with that show, where they would have little battles between each other up on the stage, and it was broadcast for the parents to see. It was a really nice event. So we did that after school a few years ago, and then this past summer we ran it again as a summer program through our engineering pathway. So yeah, we got a lot of those things in place, but we need to really expand that, make sure that the younger kids have the experience and have the knowledge of what's happening right here in their own backyard in Barville.
That's awesome. I love that. Chris, is there something that your students could go back and teach and do a program with your CTE program, to start cultivating the students younger and younger?
Yeah, I think there's a numerous amount of opportunities with that. I personally have been working with my hands with woodworking and construction stuff since I was, a little kid. My dad was like, "Hey, come on, let's go. We're going to build something." So I think every opportunity that we can provide for students to really see that there's something different out there for them. It's not always, not to knock engineering or anything like that. Like everybody wants, somebody to go to college in their family, because right now is like, it's a generation of the first timers. Some people it's the first time or the first person that's graduated from college, and that's huge and that's great. But I think, like Dr. Solito said, right now we're seeing a shift in that where you're seeing you don't necessarily have to go to college, or if you want to go to college to do, instead of just construction, you can get into the construction management, be a, project manager and stuff like that. I think it's huge. So the kids that I have, I would love to work with the younger kids. I know we have a woodworking program at the middle school that shows them a little bit. I know it's like on a quarterly basis where the kids rotate through classes. So they do get a little bit of a peek at it, but, getting down into the elementary school, I think it's like you said, it's getting the excitement in the kids, showing them that they're capable of doing these things and getting that interest to get piqued it opens up that whole creativity piece that I think a lot of kids are missing now, because they're always, stuffed in their face on their phones and thinking like it's instant gratification, where everything that we do, it's not necessarily instant. It takes time. It takes hard work. It's something that you see take place over time, which is for some people, it's hard to picture. And I know from, teaching numerous years now that the younger kids have more of an imagination than the older kids, because they don't have the restrictions on their mind. They're not like, they don't have these boundaries. They go, "Oh, I want to make this." My son says it all the time. "I want to make this Godzilla, and I want to make it move, and I want to make it out of wood." And I'm like, okay, but that's going to take a long time. But, so I think getting to the younger grades and promoting programs, it's not only going to be good for the kids, but I think it's going to be good for the town too.
I think it's great because my son is an Eagle Scout. So he was brought up from a Weeblo, starting with the Boy Scouts. So he learned cooking and wood making and how to shoot a gun. And he's a sharpshooter at Yagoo and camping. And, he filled his mind with all of this amazing stuff that he spent less and less time on video games because he wanted to do all of this other stuff and hands-on. And I know Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts isn't for everybody. So these programs are so important where it's not as involved as a lifelong thing as like a Boy Scout, because once you start ranking up, you don't want to let it go. But this is more hands-on and more fixtured to what they want to do. Holly, do you bring the arts to the younger students, or like, are there plays for all ages, or is it just, you know what I mean? How do you go about doing that?
So we did Junie B. Jones Jr., and that was ages, I think the youngest was 5 and the oldest was 16. So that show was for younger kids, and that was awesome. They enjoyed it and they want more. So I think if you do start young, it's really helpful in the arts, and also too, it exposes the kids as they get older to different things. So one of my cast members for Junie B. Jones, she actually played Junie, actually helped me design the set. She painted all the set pieces. So she found another interest besides just being on stage. So that part is amazing, because with a show like that, because the setting is a first grade classroom, you know, I let them have fun. I said, all right, this is what you have to design. You're a first grader. What would you draw? And they were showing me up what my first grade drawing skills. So we do start young, and that's really important. So that way they get to see what it's like to be on stage, as well as all of the other opportunities that are available. And one thing about getting a kid on stage young or old, it doesn't really matter, or as an adult, you're learning those valuable communication skills, public speaking skills, realizing there isn't no instant gratification. A show is 3 months of hard work, averaging 9 hours a week of rehearsal, then rehearsing at home, memorizing your lines, memorizing your songs if it happens to be a musical, learning your blocking, paying attention to your director, becoming a theater family, and learning to work with all different types of people in your cast. So a child that gets to experience that will never forget it. They may never do it again. They may decide this isn't for me, but they will gain valuable knowledge about themselves and about what it's like to be part of something that takes true creative teamwork from every person involved. So I think if you can encourage a child to be in the arts, whether it's dance, theater, fine art, drawing or music, those skills transfer to something else in life, even if it's not their career path. Theater is my sport, and theater is my kids' sports that I work with. So some have aspirations of going to college for theater production or musical theater or tech or lighting or sound, singing. And then some, this is just their pastime. It's their passion. It's their sport. And I have adults who are so happy to be back on that stage and have that sport back in their life. And it's kind of cool because it's something that even when the play is done, it never leaves you, whether you're a participant in the show or an audience member. So I think the more arts we can provide to our town, it actually trickles into every other part of our community.
Yeah, what I think is great about it is the younger kids can watch their older siblings or their parents, doing it, and they want to be like them, or, you know what I mean? Like I said, the parents can get involved, and it could be a family sport. It could be something you could be doing together. It's something you could be learning together, spending time together, and getting off of video games and actually doing something. Because as you can tell, I'm not a big fan of video games. I mean, it's great because there's a whole career in that for graphic design, but there's a big, beautiful world out there. Get out and see it. And I think it's so important for people to interact with one another. Like, this COVID is really, stepping on all of our toes right now, because we're all isolated. We're all, vaguely wanting to be next to other people because of the whole COVID thing that I can't wait to go away and the world to open up again. Michael, what are some of the things that you would like to see? If you had a wish list for Burrillville, what are some of the things that you would like to see? I'm going to ask you all this, so the other two get a chance to think about it.
I got to answer that one first.
Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot first.
No, it's a good question, because there's in education, a lot of what we do is a balancing act. So we have a finite number of resources, and we have lots of things that we want to provide for parents and kids in the community. And every day, as our teachers do, and our administrators and our school committee members, and working with the town, it's a big balancing act of how to best use those resources for kids. And as Holly was saying, with performers that have that connection when they're on the stage or when they're performing in front of people, that kind of being like their sport, if you will. We find as educators, the kids that are the most successful are those that are connected to something in the school and in the larger community. So for some kids, it's athletics. For some kids, it's music. For some kids, it's a CTE program. So I think that if I had one wish, a wish list would be to have those connections for all kids. The kids that struggle the most at any level. This is true in elementary school, middle, and particularly in high school. Kids that, for whatever reason, aren't connected to the school, and they're not connected to the outside community. The kids that are super involved, those 9 times out of 10 are kids that are going to do really well in school and really well in life. And the kids that struggle and sometimes, unfortunately, end up struggling in high school and maybe not finishing, or looking at other options to get a GED, maybe, or those kind of tough decisions that unfortunately some kids have to make, usually kids that for whatever reason just don't connect with anything in their community and in their school. I think philosophically what I'd like to see is every kid connected to some kind of program, and it's up to us as adults to expand those opportunities for kids so that they can find what works for them. For some kid it might be playing hockey. For another kid, it may be being in the band, and for another kid, it could be designing a robot. So we've got to keep providing opportunities for kids, both in the classroom and as an extension of the classroom on the ice or on the court or on the field or on the stage or in the band room or wherever that takes them, wherever it takes us. So I think though, if I could have one wish of what would really be impactful for kids and for the community, is to find those connections and make sure every kid at every level has some connection to the school and to the community outside of school.
I love that, because there's a lot of schools that you have to do 10 hours of community service or something. That I would love to see some of that be, you have to spend a couple of hours taking an after school activity or participating in something. Pick something, try different things. See, you don't know if you're going to like it until you actually get yourself out there and you try it, where you kind of force kids to try different things and seeing if, like throwing spaghetti against the wall and hope it sticks kind of thing. You know what I mean? But making it part of, their giving back to their community, that they have to be involved in something. And I think we'd be surprised how many kids would latch onto something, because if they try it, they'll love it. Chris, what would you like to say? What would be your wish list to see?
So I think to piggyback on Dr. Solito's point, being a construction backgrounded person, this is going to sound weird because I'm not even going to talk about that, but I think having pathways for students to be able to explore, so that way they can figure out who they are and who they want to become. I think it's extremely important, because through school, personally, I didn't know what I wanted to do until I was pretty much in college. I was told, hey, you're good at this. Maybe you should try this. And I was like, I have no idea what else I want to do. So, hey, why not? Right. But I think that came down to not being able to experience enough of what I thought I liked. And having the amount of time and schedules to really, hone those skills. So I think my biggest thing would be, obviously start young, introduce kids to different types of things, and give them the opportunity to explore as they get older. Your interests change. You find out what you like, what you don't like. And I think we have to start using, and this is going to sound a little funny, but failure in a different way, because failing is not necessarily always a bad thing. That failure can teach you more than you getting it right on the first turn. So I think, not necessarily that we have to make failure mainstream. That's not what I'm saying. But I think giving students an opportunity to do something, and if they fail, go, what can we do to change that? What did you do wrong? What can we do different next time? Or maybe this doesn't interest you. I think you might like this instead. I think, again, giving them a wider range of opportunities, especially when it comes to hands-on skills for the future, because I see, trades being a big boom and upcoming thing right now, where, computer science is another huge one. So I think the more of that we can offer the students, and the better, the wow factor of the rooms when you walk in and be like, wow, this place is awesome. I think, including that in it too is another thing, because who wants to go into a place that, and I'm not saying the school's like this, by the way, but who wants to go into a place and learn where you go, it's okay, but, it's not really cool. But like, you walk into, the new New England Tech building and you go, wow, this is cool. So I think having the wow factor and having them be able to explore, I think, is huge, especially for being able to draw students in from other districts. So I think that overall would be my biggest wish, for the future.
I agree with you, because we also have to get kids ready for the unexpected. Like, I walked the majority of my life. Within 10 minutes, I landed paralyzed in a wheelchair and had to learn to navigate the world differently. People say to me all the time, how did you take it in such stride, and you're such a positive person? Well, I had my moments, but on the other hand, what was I going to do? Sit and cry about it for the rest of my life and ruin my life, or find a way and take my skills to reacclimate myself to doing something differently? Now I get to meet all of these amazing people and let them show them that just because I'm in a wheelchair, I can still do a lot of different things. So showing people and showing kids to kind of roll with the punches, because they're going to come. There's no way avoiding the punches. They're going to come. It's giving yourself enough gumption to jump over them, or to roll with it and come out stronger on the other end, is the most important part. Holly, what would be your biggest wish?
Oh, that's easy. I want to make sure that everyone always feels welcome and accepted. One of the big things about Assembly Act, that's our in-house theater production company that I started along with some of the other patron board members, was that everybody gets to find their light and shine. So everyone gets to figure out what they want, what they're good at, what they want to try, and it's okay to fail. And they find their light. And that's a theater term that we use that I take very seriously, because that light shines down on the stage. So I'll give you a little background. When the lighting tech does the lighting design, we actually pinpoint on the stage where the light needs to hit. Now, say you block a scene where you say you walk stage, upstage, downstage, right, left, and then that moment comes during the show, that light's already set to shine on a spot on the stage. That actor has to remember to go find their light. So nothing happens without their hard work. Nothing happens without their dedication. And that's our moral in life too. You have to work hard, find your light. You might miss it one time, but the next time you're going to be in it. So we try to do that with everything we do. Anyone who wants to be part of a production can be. It might not be that you're the leading role, but you will have a home in the theater and you are accepted just the way you are. That's the overall goal for what I think for any education institution, organization should be, but it's something we feel really strongly about at the Assembly Theater, and we would be instilling that with whatever collaborations we have with our education departments, that kids feel accepted, because they should be.
Well, I think you do a fabulous job in that, because you're took me in. You took all of the other actors in. You make everybody feel important. And I want to give, like I said, I give you guys all a round of applause because Barville is leading the way. Barville is fully on board with full accessibility, full inclusion with everybody, and all of the programs and the pathways that you guys have, giving so many different options and open to change and open to say, like, I could call Michael up and say, hey, Michael, maybe you should try it this way because that just doesn't work for somebody like me. And you're open to the fact of, okay, let's try something new. Let's try it a different way where you're not, talking to a wall and say, okay, they're just going to yes me to death and then do whatever they want to do. So Barville is leading the way, and I challenge every other school in the state of Rhode Island to come down to Barville, see what they're doing in all of their aspects, and do better. Model this and do better. If you find another way that's better, bring it back, and we will learn from you. But find out what they're doing down here because they are doing amazing things. Michael, give us your final thoughts. What is the most important thing that you want someone to take away from Barville?
I think the term that's popping in my head is adaptability. And I think that as we step into the year 2022 shortly, one of the most important skills we need people to realize and our students to realize is that they have the ability to be adaptable. They have to adapt to their different surroundings, different circumstances. And Tina, you said it really well with your life story and adapting to the obstacles that you confronted. We're all going to face obstacles. We're all going to have issues that we deal with, some small, some large, and everywhere in between. And our job as educators is to teach kids the skills that will allow them to work through that and to be adaptable to whatever life throws at them.
Great. Holly, what would you like, the one thing that you want to leave people with at the town of Barville?
Please go to theassemblytheater.org and subscribe so you know what's going on in 2022. I promise you a lot will happen. No matter what, we're adaptable and we'll do whatever we can to provide entertainment and education to the town safely.
And just to throw it out there that if a historic theater could go fully ADA compliant, nobody else has a way to say that they can't go ADA compliant. Just saying. So if a theater can go fully ADA compliant, that's historic, nobody else has an excuse. So get off your duff and make it happen. Chris, what is the one thing you want to leave everybody with Barville?
I think basically that the team of teachers we have in Barville is awesome, and they're very ambitious. We are not really settling with what we have. We always want to grow and be better, which is something that's refreshing to see, especially being my first year in the district. I've lived in Barville my whole life. I graduated from Barville High School, but seeing it on the teacher side of things is completely different. I think the teachers being involved in the student's life as, an educator, but also on the sports field or in a theater program, music program, after school programs in general, I think it's huge to build that relationship with the students. And I think, again, using that word, ambition, the teachers are very ambitious to really reach the students at where they are and help them grow. So I think being where we are in the starting block of the pathways, I think we are in a good spot right now where we're able to continue pushing forward to help grow not only the school district, but also the students that get involved in the programs.
I am so excited to be a part of this town. As you can all tell, that Barville now has my heart, and you guys all have a connection to accessibility and inclusion. So if you ever have a question, you know who to come in contact. But I want to thank you again for your leading the way of accessibility and inclusion for everybody, because it is a refreshful sight that so many of us can be included in regular every day-to-day life. It's sad that there are so many people that just leave us out, because disability is the only minority that anybody can join at any time. So don't you want the world to be accessible and ready for you if you happen to join this amazing community? And disability is not a bad thing. So please don't. I have done more for my wheelchair than I have done when I was walking, because you get a whole new perspective. So make sure you do it. If anybody wants to contact Holly, Michael, or Christopher, you can reach out and message me or if you guys could all give your email or your contact information really quickly. Holly, give us your information.
Sure, you can reach me at assemblyact@gmail.com, or just go to the Assembly website and my contact information is there.
Chris, how can they contact you?
So we can either go to the Barville School webpage, or you can do pillingc@bsd-ri.com or .net, sorry. And I'll get back to you.
It's all good. Michael, how can they contact you?
We give a plug out for our CTE microsite. If anyone's interested in learning more about our career and technical education pathway programs or applying, cte.bsd-ri.net. Again, that's cte.bsd-ri.net. And if you want to email me, it's my last name, first initial, @bsd-ri.net.
And again, if you didn't catch any of that, you can go to the Barville Public Schools website or the Barville High School website, and you can contact them or just message me, because they are not just my colleagues, they are my friends. So if you contact me, I will put you in touch with the right person. But definitely go out of your way and seek these 3 individuals out, because they are leading the way, and you definitely want to bring these programs to your school. So do the right thing and reach out. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I am so proud to be a Burravillian and be part of all of you. I also want to wish you and your families a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a wonderful and safe 2022. And COVID will go away, and we will be in person with everybody, and we will be doing a lot of wonderful things. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, and I look forward to working with you all in 2022.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody. And
Merry
I will
Christmas.
see you all next year on 2022. And don't just sit there, make a difference. Have a great year, everybody. See you next year.